afternoon. Hello to all our participants. Thank you for joining us. My name is Lourdes Valenzuela. I'm the Regional Coordinator of Susana Latin America. Today, together with Tomaz Kipnis, Luis Francisco from Alajuela, Costa Rica, and Victor Hugo from Brazil, Corsan, are going to share 3 Latin American experiences in the management of fecal sludge. We want to promote the replication of these successful experiences in the region and share some insights that can contribute to developing policies and strategies in other regions. Next. Fecal sludge management is a subject full of challenges, also in the Latin American region. There are challenges in each and every link of the value chain, such as generation, collection, transport, and treatment, as well as regulatory and normative aspects, which enable the monitoring of cleaning services, transport, and safe disposal of fecal sludge. On-site solutions are viable options only if they are part of sanitation value chain is properly managed, including collection, transportation, treatment, and final use or disposal, all done safely. We are delighted to be able to present the Latin American experience. As you know, Latin America is characterized by its rapid urban development, which make it difficult for sanitation services to keep pace. The problem is that despite the huge number of people using these technologies in low and middle income cities, there are generally no established systems for the proper management of the accumulated fecal sludge. It is for this reason that fecal sludge management addresses a critical need, plays as an essential role in sanitation management. The implementation of on-site solutions has reduced open defecation, but without proper management, they can still be harmful to the environment. For example, when septic tanks are not regularly emptied, sludge leaves the tank untreated and infiltrates into the ground, potentially polluting underground water. We know that decentralized technologies are by many factors the most sustainable alternative compared to sewage systems, which are expensive. It has been shown that the cost of fecal sludge management technologies is 5 times lower than conventional solutions of sewer in urban areas. In Latin America and the Caribbean, 60% of the population is served with sewerage, but there is a more than 190 million inhabitants who use different decentralized solutions and that require fecal sludge management. So now I give the floor to Tomaz Kipnis. Hi, Tomaz. Please talk to us about the FSM characteristics in these countries.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Lourdes, for the introduction and for the invitation for being here. I'm Tomaz. I'm a water and sanitation consultant from Brazil. And I had the opportunity to work along with Susana in 2020 for the development of a few FSM case studies in Latin America. Well, as Lourdes mentioned, on-site systems are very common in such countries and they play a very important role in the sanitation context in the whole region, both because there is a huge reliance on individual and on-site systems in these regions, but also due to the fact that most of the systems are unsafely built or operated, both the on-site system, but also the fecal sludge management that comes after that. So improving the fecal sludge management chain is a very important aspect to bring effective evolution and advancements towards adequate sanitation throughout the countries. There has been several interesting initiatives related mainly to the containment stages of the FSM service chain, mainly focusing on how to build low-cost, accessible, and easily replicable systems to urban, poor, and rural areas. But it is rare to find initiatives that take into account the entire service chain and also that look into scalable and large coverage scale systems. So this is part of the motivation for Susana to start developing these case studies in Latin America, framing large-scale initiatives that take into consideration the entire service chain, framing the fecal sludge management systems and models. Well, we will bring here 3 cases that we've developed, we've systemized, one from Costa Rica, one from Bolivia, and another from Brazil. And we hope to share a little bit of the approaches that they brought along, the implementation methodology, the configurations of models and systems that were developed, and also their learnings. Today, we're fortunate to have here 2 representatives from these initiatives. So we have here Vitor Hugo from Corsã, which will talk to us about their experiences in Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. We also have Luis Francisco from Costa Rica, Alajuela, which will present the case that they've developed there. Unfortunately, we did not manage to bring someone from Santa Cruz, so I will be presenting this case. Yeah, and this is it. I think we can get started with the cases. We will get started with the case from Corsã in Brazil.
Okay, I will explain how is Brazil. Brazil is a vast country in South America that stretches from the Amazon basin in the north to vineyards and the massive Iguazu Falls in the south. With a population of 200 million inhabitants, it's the largest country in South America. Rio Grande do Sul has a population of 11 million inhabitants, just as Bolivia, and have a humid subtropical climate. The annual average temperature of the state varies between 14 and 22 Celsius degrees. Precipitation is well distributed through the year, located in the extreme south of the country. The state of Rio Grande do Sul borders Argentina to the west, Uruguay to the south, and the state of Santa Catarina to the north. With an approximate area of more than 280,000 square kilometers, the demographic density of the state is 42.2 inhabitants per square kilometer, and the largest in the south and the 3rd largest of the 27 federative unit of the country. Please, Vitor Hugo, talk to us about your country.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vitor. I work at Corsã. I'd like to thank you, Lourdes and Tomaz, for the invitation. It's an honor to be part of this event. I'm a big enthusiast of Susana Forum and library. It has helped us a lot developing our work here at Corsã. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the work we've done here. So our state, Rio Grande do Sul, is a small state in the south of Brazil with 459 municipalities and over 11.4 million inhabitants, and mainly in the urban area. But actually, 47% of the state municipalities have rural populations higher than urban. And furthermore, many small municipalities do not have a high housing density, even in their urban area. So these are some factors that can contribute to the use of on-site sanitation systems. So the organizations that are responsible, that are involved in this work were the State Water and Sanitation Company, Corsã, the regulatory agency of the state of Rio Grande do Sul, called AGERGS, and the Association of the Municipalities in the state, called FAMURS. This initiative began in 2015 to 2017. It was designed in 2018 and approved in 2019. So when official figures are considered, only 38.6% of the state population are covered by sanitation services, because these official figures only consider conventional sewer and wastewater treatment plants. And they are located mostly in the most populated cities. And so we have a low index of coverage if compared to other states in Brazil. And so framing the urban population specifically, this share is is 48%, and for the rural population, only 8.8%. And there is an expressive reliance on on-site solutions. 37% of the households in the state rely on individual solutions, mostly septic tanks and some cesspits. But in many small municipalities, this share goes beyond 90%. And beside most of these populations in the rural areas, 7% of the households in the main urban areas also rely on individual solutions. And just to give a reference in relation to the national picture, over 30% of the population in Brazil rely on on-site containment solutions, 80% in the rural areas and 12% in the urban areas. Costa is responsible for providing sanitation services in approximately 60% of the state total municipalities. This map represents the proportion of households with on-site sanitation systems for each municipality. The darker the brown, the greater the participation of septic tanks or cesspits as a sanitary sewage solution. The red dots represent the city population, and some yellow dots are wastewater treatment plants with spare capacity. In this image, it is clear how there are regions such as the center north of the state where, due to its hydrogeological, cultural, and socioeconomic characteristics, there's a great adhesion to on-site systems, especially with soil disposal of the effluent. In other regions, such as further to the northeast, there's a smaller share of the solution. This is due to the fact that the soil there is very shallow with the presence of rock at a shallow depth, making it difficult to implement on-site systems. In these cases, there's usually a direct discharge into the receiving water body via the rainwater drainage network. And many of the cities have a declining population, and the implementation of a conventional sanitary sewage system is not justified. On-site systems can be a definitive and adequate solution as long as they're properly dislodged and the fecal sludge is safely managed. To achieve this goal, we had to update regulations with the regulatory agency, also define municipal legal procedures such as laws, a sanitation master plan that had to be updated, and the contract, the sanitation service provision contract with the municipality, because the Corsa provides the service, but the responsible are the municipality. We have a contract with each city where it states the roles that we have, the goals that we need to achieve, and it has to be, it has to work together with the municipal sanitation plan. So we have to develop this new service model, develop these procedures of the scheduled dislodging and the treatment infrastructure. So far, we only have co-treatment that is working, a little bit behind schedule on new fecal sludge treatment plants infrastructure. So fecal sludge management is being considered either as a provisory or definitive solution to be applied in both in rural areas, low density urban, and even depending on local conditions on densely occupied urban areas. So these are the steps. So the initial discussion, the debate didn't start at Corsa. Other agents such as the state public ministry were demanding solutions in regard to making on-site systems viable. So Corsa recognized its importance and started to work towards that goal. The starting point was, why can't the individual solutions be accounted in the coverage index, and what needed to be done for that? This led to understanding of the potential of fecal sludge management models to accelerate sanitation services coverage and also to improve the company's performance. The conception and planning step, in which it was systemized the factors and possibilities for the arrangement and identifying actions needed to implement this model. And this is the service model design that was coupled with a pilot project that helped us to validate the operational procedures and costs that were crucial for the financial model and also to establish the tariff with the regulatory agency. And now the implementation step, where we're doing what I said before, update the regulation, the municipal sanitation master plan, add the scope to the contract, and finally start the operation. But so far, the operation has only started in one municipality. There's a perspective to expand. We were hoping to have 24 other municipalities by the end of this year, but there was a major change in federal law last year, and we're still getting adapted to it. But the plan is to attend all municipalities that have a contract with Corsa in the medium term. So every city will have, in a higher or smaller percentage, this kind of service. So the solutions involved in this initiative refer to institutional arrangement, legal procedures, financial model, physical structures, and operational routines. So these are the responsibilities of Corsa for those stages in the chain. So in the containment, our role is to register and inspect the on-site systems. The responsibility of building and properly design is from the homeowner, and who has the power to enforce it is the municipality. So our role is to inspect and inform if it's not adequate. So the municipality can ask for the homeowner to get it fixed. So the collection and transport is done by regular desludging along with private truck operators, but they are hired by Corsa. It's not, they're not independent. So the treatment so far is, what we're doing is cold treatment in those existing wastewater treatment plants that had spare capacity. And we have plans to build new fecal sludge treatment plants, but we haven't built any one so far. And so far, we are only disposing in the landfill the water sludge, but we have plans to reuse it for agricultural purposes in the future. So for the registration and inspection of on-site systems, our role is to communicate and talk about the program, register the households to be attended, inspect after registration, and also to diffuse the existing standards. Now the Brazilian standards for on-site systems are going through a review. We are also being part of it, of this discussion. So in the regular desludging, the role of Corsa is to schedule the services, so the user can schedule through different ways. Can call the call center. There's an app, and can also go to the Corsa in that city and schedule there. So after that, we define the collection routes, and the hired company will collect and transport the sludge, and we have to monitor. So depending on the municipality local conditions, we go through a cold treatment or build a new fecal sludge treatment plant. It will depend on location, of the production, and the conditions of the wastewater treatment plants. A fecal sludge treatment plant was designed to attend 19 municipalities in a land that the city would provide. But unfortunately, the new mayor that got in office declared that he had other plans for that land and requested us to find somewhere else. So we kind of lost that project. We have to start from scratch again. And reuse, you have this perspective to use the treated sludge in agriculture. Right now, there's a new regulatory framework from last year that wants to make it easier to use biosolids in agriculture, because we had an older regulation that was inspired in EPA 503 rule, but it didn't have Class B biosolids. So to attend Class A biosolids was very difficult and expensive, and only one state company was able to do it, and it wasn't cheaper. They just did it because they thought it was right, and everyone else was just sending to the landfill. So now they hope that with this change in the law, it will make it easier and more companies will be able to use the biosolids for agriculture. Now we have back the Class B biosolids. And this has a important potential due to the state high agricultural production. Okay, so these are the values this is the cost for the scheduled desludging of the on-site systems. There's a different tariff for low income. It's called less social residential, basic residential, and commercial. So these values are modeled in a way so that the overall cost is covered. That is $4.45 per month. And so the financial model needs to balance the cost from conventional and social tariff so that the average household payment is this $4.45. So this results in a social tariff directed to low-income families of $347 and basic and commercial $877 per month. So this is the distribution of responsibilities. So the municipality has to decide if the fecal sludge management should be considered, and if they do so, they have to update their sanitation master plan and approve it by law. And then they can update the service provision contract. So Corsa must communicate with customers, book the service and make the routing, register and inspect the solutions, organize and monitor the collection and transport, treatment and destination, and charging that tariff. The hired desludging company has to attend the desludging demands according to the directives from Corsa and AGERGS, and the customers need to install and maintain their containment solution according to the standard and attend the scheduled desludging and pay the tariff. What we could learn along the way is that the acceptability of the fecal sludge management varies widely among municipalities, and the political issue can be a very tricky question and a challenge. And for some cities, it was meeting a demand from decades. It was a historical need. They had these on-site systems, but they had nowhere to dispose the fecal sludge. So when we got there with this program, they were very glad that we were doing something about it. But some other cities were considering it as setback. It was like it was going back in time. They were expecting more of a conventional solution. So it's very, very different from place to place, and also from time to time we had more than one case, as the one I mentioned before, that there was a change in the city, and the mayor changed, and the new mayor had a different view about it, and so we had to again change our plans and everything. So this is I think this is making it run a little slower than we would like to, but it's a work in progress. So we're advancing as we can. And another lesson that we learned, that there has to be some kind of sanction if the user does not schedule the service. When the pilot project was conducted, the service was done for free, and then we had a very good level of scheduling and service. But now it's been very slow. It's not as good as we'd like to, because since there is no sanction for the one who doesn't schedule, they don't feel like they have to do it. right away. So I believe they're waiting for it to collapse, like they always do when it's not flushing anymore, and then they start to think about the sludge in their system. I think that's it from my part. I'm sorry if I was a little nervous, but I hope everyone could understand.
Great. Thank you, Victor Hugo. For the participants, we're going to answer all the questions at the end. So please use the Q&A button below to participate and do your questions. Now we're going to pass to Bolivia, right, Tomaz?
Exactly, that's it.
And so how is Bolivia? Bolivia is the heart of South America with 11 million inhabitants. It's a Mediterranean country. 2/3 of the country is Amazonic and 1/3 is plateau. With an area of more than 1 million square kilometers, is located within the tropical zone of the globe. The country climate is characterized by a great thermal amplitude due to the great differences in altitude and the diversity of reliefs. The country is an unitary state divided into 9 departments, the department of Santa Cruz being the largest in territorial extension and one of the richest in the country. Santa Cruz has humid tropical climate with an average temperature of 26 Celsius degrees. The population of Santa Cruz is 3 million inhabitants with 1.9 million people in its metropolitan area, distributed in 6 municipalities: Santa Cruz de la Sierra, Guarnes, Orongo, Cotoca, La Guardia, and El Torno. Now I am going to give the floor to Tomaz for the technical aspects in FSM.
Thank you, Lourdes. So we'll speak a bit about this initiative in Santa Cruz, which consists basically of the design of a pilot project focused on improving fecal sludge management conditions in the region in order to propitiate proper sanitation to the peri-urban areas of Santa Cruz. So a few general information about the local context. The city of Santa Cruz is a metropolitan area that hosts 1.9 million inhabitants, and it is considered the financial center of the country, so roughly 35% of the gross national product. It is also one of the cities with the greatest demographic growth rate in the world, and that has a very big implication when it comes to sanitation, as we'll speak a bit more in the next slides. Just as a general reference, the Bolivian urban population is expected to reach 72% of the overall population by 2025. So this systematization, for this case, this initiative was promoted by the Water and Environmental Ministry from Bolivia, also by the Potable Water and Sanitation Surveillance and Social Control Authority, APS. And this was done along with the participation of service providers, so Saguapac and Copagos, also with Adeltar, which is the Dislodging and Transportation Companies Association, and with the state and municipal governments of Santa Cruz. The initiative had the technical and financial support from the World Bank and GIZ, and it took place mainly between 2017 and 2019. This case study that we developed along with Susanna was based on a very comprehensive set of materials that were produced during this project, and also with the contributions from a project consultant, which was Luis Sevilla. So this project main scope is to improve sanitation conditions in Santa Cruz by improving fecal sludge management service chain and looking very thoroughly to guarantee proper operational conditions and continuous improvement of the systems, and that assuring safe containment solutions, qualifying and organizing the collection and transportation, creating adequate treatment facilities for fecal sludge, and developing proper reuse practices for the resulting material. the byproducts. So for this, the pilot project scope focuses on a few main aspects: developing awareness and capacity building, developing and diffusing guidelines and standards, complementing existing regulations, also defining inspection and monitoring procedures and protocols for the different stages of the service chain, improving existing infrastructure, so not only new treatment plants, but also the roads and access to such plants, distributing responsibilities throughout the different actors and supporting their appropriation but by their own functions, and then expanding in-depth knowledge to enable safe and sustainable practice throughout the entire chain. And this initiative had three main, those classic stages, going from the diagnosis to a prognosis and then an action plan. Starting from the diagnosis, it was conducted a very in-depth assessment about the current situation of the different stages of the service chain. So from what are the fecal sludge generation conditions in terms of quantity and quality, also characterization, the situation of the containment structures in the households, what were the dislodging dynamics and transportation, the situation for the existing services, dislodger companies, and so on. Also the conditions for fecal sludge treatment in the existing plants, and the practices for reuse and disposal of the byproducts. This diagnosis resulted in, of course, the focus points that needed improvements. And though this was translated in the next step, the design of the pilot initiative, into 5 main action components. So that was the first one towards containment structures and maintenance dynamics. The second one targeting improvements to the collection and transportation activities. The third, structuring proper sludge offloading and treatment systems. The fourth refers to grounding and develop in-depth knowledge for reuse practices in the region. And 1/5, which refers to the developing communication and knowledge management strategies. And this, of course, was properly distributed throughout the different actors involved in the service chain. And well, when we go to the implementation plan, the same 5 components were each received a proper organization in terms of what is the strategic prioritization of the actions in the timeline, what's the expected duration for each action and activity throughout this time, and also what was the estimated budget for each one of these actions. And this plan considered a 2-year time frame. So a little bit of the sanitation context, which is a result from the diagnosis work. The sanitation services in Santa Cruz advanced expressively in the last decades, but it has not managed to keep up with the fast growth of the urban population. So as we've seen, Santa Cruz is one of the greatest in the world in terms of demographic growth in the urban area. And when we have a huge reliance on centralized sewage systems, which have very slow implementation rhythms, that is usually does not keep up with the growth rate of such settlements. So when in 2012, the census pointed out for a 1.4 million inhabitant population, nowadays 1.9, but back then they pointed that 51.6% of the population had access to the sewer. And this is mainly this region in green here in the image, which is the more consolidated area of the city, whereas the grayish areas in the surroundings refer to the peri-urban area where most of the growth rate, the rapid growth is taking place. It also points out that 46% of the urban population count on on-site solutions. That is roughly 150,000 households. And only a small share of this fecal sludge retained in this on-site systems is properly treated. So a primary assessment that they've developed in the diagnosis pointed out that 30% of the households, only 30% count on desludging activities. They pointed out a average frequency of removal of 2 years, 28% hiring desludging services, and 2% actually doing it on site with adapted tools and manually. Also, there's only one plant in the entire region, one wastewater treatment plant that is currently receiving the collected fecal sludge. That is Polindustrial treatment plant from Saguapac. And also regarding the collection and transportation stages, they identified that there were 21 small to medium private companies operating in the desludging services, but mainly without standard safety protocols, so with no systemized means of operation. Talking a little bit about the solutions that were implemented, this initiative targets two different types of actions. The primary activities, which are the physical structures and service provision routines itself. So new service models, new treatment systems, new infrastructure, and also the supporting activities, which refer to new institutional arrangements, new communication strategies, capacity building, and also the development of standard guidelines and regulations. And when we look at this, the sanitation service chain, we can see that at the containment stage, we have both primary activities and supporting activities. So there are new routines related to the registration of households and inspections, but also there are supporting activities with measures to improve the system's quality. I will talk a little bit more in the next slide. In the collection and transportation stage, there are mainly supporting actions to improve the quality of the sludge collection and transportation services themselves. In terms of treatment, we also have primary activities, so establishing 2 new treatment sites for the fecal sludge, but also supporting activities with the development of guidelines and operating procedures for the plant. And also, finally, for the reuse and disposal, mainly supporting activities with the development of in-depth studies on which practices are more feasible and potential for the region in terms of reuse. So a little bit more in detail by each step of the service chain. In the containment stage, the solutions refer to the registration of households, creating standardized protocol and construction and maintenance. Also training and certifying professionals for the construction of the on-site systems, implementing call center systems for the users to request for maintenance or dislodging activities. Based on the consultant Luis Villa, this has not yet been implemented, but it was there in the initial sketch. And also to implement a monitoring system for the dislodging activities in the household. So not only monitoring the next stage, which is collection and transportation, but also monitor the dislodging itself. When we're talking about collection and transportation, they propose the creation of protocols for equipment and operation control, rules for truck operation, so adding identification number for each truck with technical information, putting identification plates on the truck's tank, performing inspections in the tanks, and also making use of satellite monitoring systems. Despite this more technical, they also propose to provide trainings for the operators and creating certification systems for the professionals. For the treatment stage, they propose the implementation of 2 new independent fecal sludge treatment systems, either dedicated, only treating fecal sludge, or in co-treatment with wastewater. one treatment plant for Saguapac and one for Copagua's operation. Along with the treatment plants, they indicate that it is needed to improve the road access to these plants. Also preparing and revising fecal sludge discharge, characterization and monitoring procedures, and training the professionals for such activities. And in what refers to reuse, it is proposed to develop and test scalable business models for safe resource recovery, mainly biofuel, fertilizers, animal feeding proteins, but also conducting risk evaluation studies for human health and environment, and also promoting mitigation measures. And finally, to stimulate private initiatives for technological innovation in order to get safe recycling of fecal sludge. A little zoom in the part of fecal sludge treatment. So it is suggested 2 new treatment sites, one operated by Saguapac and one for Copaguas. In the case of Saguapac, they are planning either to make use of wastewater treatment plant Sur or Polo Industrial, which is the one that already receives fecal sludge nowadays. And in the case of Copaguas, it would be a new plant, either a wastewater treatment plant or a dedicated fecal sludge treatment plant. This is just an illustration of what was proposed in case the system was adapted to the existing plant of Polo Industrial. So it's a system comprised initiating in a reception tank, followed by pre-treatment with sieves and grit tank, then followed by thickening and drying by gravity thickener and drying beds. The liquid line from this drying stages goes either to the wastewater treatment line, in the case of Polo Industrial, mainly lagoon systems, but also in case it is in another place, it can be also a specific liquid line for the fecal sludge line. Well, the dried sludge is then directed to co-composting and afterwards for reuse. Another very important aspect for this initiative refers to the communication and knowledge management strategies. It's a big share of the solutions that were proposed. They've produced videos, banners, social media. They have a very rich and comprehensive Facebook channel with their documents, videos, and all the materials that they've been developing. Also participation in events such as Expo Cruz, which is a very important event in Santa Cruz. And they've managed to build awareness and more comprehension about the fecal sludge management chain. They had a very good success with Fecalito, which is this character. Fecalito is the fecal sludge that is contained within the containment steps. But once fecal sludge goes outside of the containment steps, it becomes charco, which is the bad guy of the story. So the unsafely managed sludge. And the hero of the story is Manguerita, this blue hose, which is responsible for properly collecting and transporting to treatment the fecal sludge. They've also developed environmental awareness and diffusion campaigns for guidelines, standards, and mainly referring to on-site containment systems. Also developing specific campaigns to engage targeted communities. So not only the clients or attended population, but also communities that will be impacted somehow by the service chain. So nearby to populations, nearby treatment plants or other intervention points. And finally, as it is expected for pilot projects, they have done a very thorough systematization and diffusion of the experiences so that their learnings can also impact other regions and countries. And this last aspect that was really interesting in Santa Cruz, which was the proposing the creation of a management structure for the entire pilot initiative. So in order to manage and assure effectiveness of the initiative, they suggested a group of strategic functions that will be established throughout the implementation stages continuously. And these functions include interinstitutional coordination, technical and administrative support, continuous monitoring, external evaluation, and also financial and accounting auditory. And all this to be supervised by a technical coordination committee that is supposed to check the advances, look at their goals and see what needs to be improved, what needs to be adjusted. And this committee is to be comprised by the same promoting actors that for the initiative. So the water and sanitation utilities, the Desludging Companies Association, ADELTAR, the promoting organizations, which are the Water Environmental Ministry of Bolivia, and also the Potable Water and Sanitation Surveillance and Social Control Authority, AAPS, and the municipal and state government of Santa Cruz. So just a brief summary of the distribution of responsibilities throughout the actors. So we have the Water Environmental Ministry being responsible for regulation at national level. They're also responsible for investments and technical assistance. The surveillance, the Potable Water and Sanitation Surveillance and Social Control Authority is responsible for controlling and monitoring the service provision, so providing surveillance. And also along with the state government and the municipal governments to coordinate the regulation compliances and also providing licenses. The municipal government itself is responsible for investments in infrastructure, planning, and also inspecting and controlling the services. Of course, they are not they're not solely responsible for the investments. They also have support from state government and federal government, but they're this primary point of impact when it comes to planning and managing and investing to these systems. And when it comes to water and sanitation utilities and the desludging companies, their responsibility is to provide the services following the general directives from the regulations and legislation. And to wrap this case, some interesting aspects about the financial calculations that they've done. It's not an observed, these are not observed values. These are estimated budgets to what they might reach. So we're talking approximately a total budget of 1.6 million US dollars overall costs. And from this, it was roughly 66% referring to primary activities, so offloading and treatment new structures. And that's interesting to see the weight of these physical actions throughout the entire pilot project. Through these figures, we can see that the primary activities related to new structures, they have a very big weight on the overall costs. But we can also see that the non-structural measures, so such as the pilot project management structure and the communication and knowledge management actions, they also have significant costs, which is very proportional and coherent to the importance of these measures for this initiative to last for a long time and to be sustainable. Okay, so this was it for the case of Santa Cruz. We can now move on to the case of Costa Rica.
Thanks, Tomaz. Now we are going to know more from Costa Rica. Costa Rica is a country in Central America with 5 million inhabitants. It borders with Nicaragua and Panama. A quarter part of its area is protected forest, and it has tropical forest and coast in the Caribbean and in the Pacific. The population of Alajuela is 3,000 inhabitants. Alajuela is located in the intertropical zone of the planet, close to the equator, but register milder temperatures varying between a minimum of 50 degrees in winter and a maximum of 32 Celsius degrees in summer, mainly due to the altitude of 960 meters. Alajuela is the second most populated city in the country, is a part of San Jose metropolitan area. So finally, Luis Francisco, explain us the technical aspect of the fecal sludge management in Costa Rica.
Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I thank you for the opportunity to share our experiences in this project. Well, our approach to fecal sludge management came as a strategy to accelerate sanitation coverage in the municipality and leverage resources for the future expansion of sewer networks. Here, we have a population of approximately 300,000 inhabitants, and most of them, 90%, is urban population, while only 10% is rural. But we only have a 15% coverage of sewer system or sewer sanitation, while 85% of the people still use septic tanks or similar to septic tank solutions, which means that in most of urban areas, we don't have sewer, but we have septic tanks, which is a not solution suitable for these areas. We started this project approximately in 2017, and we've been following and doing several steps to reach the point where we are today, and that I'm going to explain to you in the following slides. Okay. Well, in Costa Rica, water and wastewater management service are public service, only provided by the government through municipalities or the main government's public company, or sometimes by small associations which are only allowed to provide this kind of services and with no profit. That's the main concept. In Costa Rica, we have a good drinking water service. In general, more than 95% have this service, and but the sewer service is still has very low coverage. In Alajuela, which is one of the highest cities that provide this kind of service, we only have, as I told you before, 15% of our total population that has the sewer service. The rest of them, they have on-site service, on-site solutions. Most of them is a septic tank, or it's called septic tanks, but sometimes it's only a hole in a pit in the ground, and it's a kind of infiltration system, but not properly designed and constructed, so it has no safe conditions. This project came as a solution for trying to provide or increase the coverage of sewer system to all our population. The problem is, as a public service, we are pushed by the legislation to provide a service based on cost, which means we cannot have profit out of the service, and only it is allowed to have a 10% extra charge for developing the system. But to charge this service, first we have to build the sewer system, the treatment plants, and all the infrastructure that is required for these services, which means we are in a kind of situation that is impossible to grow, because only a few percentage of population receive the service, and that 15% of population we charge a tariff on cost, and after that only 10% of that is can be used for growing. So we came up to the idea that 85% of people have septic tank solutions that are also a problem, because in this moment there is no company like a public company or a big formal company that provides this the collection or the sludging service, and it is producing some problems of pollution and illegal discharge in rivers and some other areas. So the purpose and the scope of our solution was to provide the fecal sludge management as a public service, which is now not provided at all in Costa Rica. By this, we want to increase the service coverage, not only for septic tanks owners, but to increase the sewer infrastructure and wastewater treatment plants. And with that increase of users, we have increased tariff collection. And by that, we are able to finance the new projects. And in a faster rate, we want to, or we'll be able to build sewer network on densely occupied areas. Next, please. Okay, to develop this project, we follow mainly 4 steps. We didn't know in the beginning all the scope of these steps, because some of them we had to discover on the way, because this project was something completely new in my country. So we started with the studies regarding local conditions, especially about how many people will be attended, what is the production of fecal sludge of this population. We had no data about it. We used data coming from some studies in Brazil, some from Europe, and we have to extrapolate to our conditions. After that, we did an assessment of consolidated fecal sludge management experiences. We tried to look to other countries. We had this kind of services more developed than us. And we made a first draft for the service chain. And we did the final institutional and financial arrangements to provide the service. Especially, we had to create a local bylaw made by the municipality, which actualized the existing regulations. So we are able now to provide this fecal sludge management, which was not provided in the past, and also define on a technical basis the scope of this new service. Next, please. Okay, the solution we are aiming to start providing next year. We have like 5 steps. First is the containment, which is the household solution everyone has. After that, the people has to call us to ask for a collection service. We are going to hire private companies who actually provide this service now, but they're going to work for the municipality now. So they go to this lodge every system, then transport to our wastewater treatment plant, where we have 2 different processes for this sludge. And mainly we are going to try to reuse and make a more creative use of the byproducts that come from wastewater treatment, mainly to reuse water and to use treated sludge for production of seedlings and other valuable products. Next, please. Okay, about the description of the solution. First, people have to register on a database of the municipality, so they can provide the basic data. And after that, they call us because they need one of these services. We are expecting to manage about 100 services a day, an average of 100 services a day, or cleanings. After that, for everyone, the average of collected sludge is going to be about 1 cubic meter. In the final draft of the regulation that the municipality approved, we increased that amount of 1 cubic meter to the double of that amount. So, but we think it's usually we are not going to pick up more than that, because most septic tanks doesn't have such capacity. So it's in the regulation, but we are going to work probably with 1 cubic meter per case. After that, we schedule the cleaning for every household, and we have a maximum time of 5 days to provide the service, but we expect to have an average of 24 to 48 hours. There is in the regulation also a possibility for the house owner to have a more accelerated service, which is within 24 hours or less than 24 hours, but they have to pay an extra charge. After that, we bring those sludges to our wastewater treatment plant. In that, we have two process lines. One is for 60 cubic meters a day. We stabilized with lime, and after that we dehydrate and use it as a compost. And other line, which has a capacity of approximately 120 cubic meters a day, we mix this sludge with the water line, with the main water line in the wastewater treatment plant. So we dilute this pollution, and it gets into the regular wastewater treatment process. After that, all the digested sludge, we are using it now for composting, and we have a municipal greenhouse, which where we were growing mainly trees and some plants for flowers and things to use in the municipal parks. And the wastewater treatment plant is also producing a very good quality treated water, which we are using now to this greenhouse and the seedlings. So it's very self-sufficient process. Next, please. Okay, this is a scheme of the process we are doing now. All the tankers, after collecting the sludge, come to a main reception tank. From this reception tank, we have two process lines. As I told you before, one is a wastewater line. So it goes to the wastewater treatment plant. It's an activated sludge plant, the regular one. The other is an stabilization with a lime, calcium oxide. After that, we raise the pH level to 11 or 12 for at least 1 hour. After that, it's completely stabilized. We mix it with the sludge discharged from the treatment plant. We bring it to a mixed tank. We do the thickening part, and the liquid share goes back to the wastewater treatment plant. After that, we dehydrate and dry the sludge. In that part is ready to be used in the greenhouse and seedling process. As we see, you see the picture. First is a picture from the whole installation, and then we see the reception tank. The third picture is the wastewater treatment plant, the activated sludge process. The fourth is the hydration process. And finally, we see a picture of the greenhouse and seedling process where we are growing all the material. Next, please. Roughly, the description of the solution in the not the technical step, but the bureaucratic step. We had to fit our new service with the RSF, which is an institution, the government institution in charge of approve the new service and the fees we're going to charge and the scope of this service. In the financial aspect, we have a tariff. Now it was uncoupled and now it's coupled with water supply for the sewer system, for the sewer service. But for the collection of fecal sludge, we have a completely separate tariff. This tariff is about for $25 per month, which means $102 every 2 years. So we charge this amount every month, and the people has the right to dislodge every 2 years under certain approved conditions. If someone needs additional cleanings or has a larger volume to be cleaned, there is an extra charge. And with that basic service, which costs $100 every 2 years, is substantially cheaper than the private services provided nowadays, which can reach from $120 up to $200 and sometimes more, depending on how urgent the service is. Sometimes people need the service a Sunday or holiday, and the companies in charge to provide the service usually charge much more on those days. Finally, we have the complementary actions. Because this is a whole new service, we need a communication campaign so the population will understand what the new service is and what the scope is, and the people will engage more with this new model and understand the benefits that they're going to receive, not only in their households, but to the entire environment and the sustainability of the service. So in the future, they are probably, by receiving this new service, able to receive and improve sewer service, which is the goal for the next years. Okay, here is a summary of the responsibility of the responsibilities in this project. First, the municipality of Alajuela, which is the provider of the service. We are responsible for organizing and monitoring the fecal sludge collection and transportation by the private companies we hire by that purpose. We do the fecal sludge treatment at our wastewater treatment plant, and all the additional activities related to this process. Well, RSF is the institution of the government in charge to approve and to supervise how the municipality provides the service and its quality. The private, the sludging companies, we want to hire the small and medium enterprises that currently work providing this service. The thing is that most of these companies have usually been illegal companies. So now we are trying to help them to fulfill all the legal requirements in order to be our providers. So now most of them, they created an association of the small enterprises, and they all together and helping each other to fulfill the technical requirements so they can work for the municipality. So this project is intended not to disappear these small and medium enterprises, but to provide them a steady and sustainable source of work. And the final responsibility is the customers, the owners of the houses who have septic tanks. They are responsible for install and properly maintain their own septic tanks. They have to call the municipality to schedule cleaning every 2 years. With that, we hope that the septic tanks are going to have a proper maintenance, because now usually nobody calls for cleaning just when they have a real problem that everything is spilling out everywhere, but usually take them 10 years with no maintenance at all. But now with every 2 years maintenance, everything is gonna be so much better. And that's pretty much our case. So I think we go into the questions and comments section.
Thank you, Luis, for the presentation with the very detailed conditions. I've seen some questions here. I don't know how we are with time. There are some final considerations to be made. So I'll just rush through them so that we can open for and also go answering the questions and answers, and then Lourdes will wrap up the session. So there are several differences and similarities when it comes to these three cases, which are all interesting with their own peculiarities and also with the common aspects between them. And these conditions refer to their approach to difficult sludge management, or also their implementation pathways for the systems, the engaged actors that were involved throughout the discussions and also then in the implementation, and also how they have defined their service configurations. In terms of approach, the cases really demonstrate some variations. Alajuela, which also correlates to one of the questions here from Stefan. Alajuela fecal sludge management is seen both as an immediate short-term measure to increase the coverage area, but it's also seen as a provisory measure in the sense of covering populations that can be attended by sewer lines, but since they don't have resources, FSM is a provisory measure so that they can gather, make the tariff collection, increase their resource capability, and then further on to invest in the sewer expansion. So it's that shift between a permanent solution to provisory solutions. In the case of Corsan, it said that it's not only about low density, but also the projections of having even a decreasing population in such sites. So really decentralized solutions make a lot more sense in the long term as well. Another aspect about this approach refers to where are the systems being applied. So in all cases, we have lower density areas being attended by FSM, but also they all recognize and consider it to highly densely occupied regions. Corsan even in their documentation state that when densely occupied areas justify for different systems other than sewers, it will be applied as well. And also an interesting point is that fecal sludge management was considered in all cases in a complementation in relation to centralized systems. So the entire territories are only going to be fully attended by a combination of centralized and decentralized systems. When we go to pathways for the implementation, it's interesting to see that in the case of Alajuela, they had a very practical approach to the situation. So they had studies and brought groundings just enough to draft and design consistent projects for the regulations and adapting their existing treatment plant, but they got straight into action, into implementation. Whereas in the case of Santa Cruz, they had a very in-depth and long-lasting study phase for planning. So the diagnosis, the discussions for prognosis and action plan, but they resulted after 2 years in a very comprehensive guideline to give a north for all their actions. And in case of Brazil, we had a very detailed study but mainly focusing on the financial legal aspects of the service model. And they had to invest a lot of their time in their discussions for the approval and depicting the details for the regulations to be approved. When it comes to the actors that were involved in all cases, there were several, but some interesting aspects is water and sanitation utilities and the regulatory agencies. They are in all cases engaged since the beginning. So they might not, the initiative might not be arisen or brought by them in the case of Corsan, which was the public ministry, but they've been in the discussions since day one and pushing for it to be implemented. Also, local municipalities were crucial in all cases. It's interesting to bring here that Corsan case in Brazil, which is a state level, not a municipal level, but a state level initiative. It also brings up municipalities in the discussions through the municipalities association, but also when Corsan goes to actually implementing it in each municipality, such level of decisions, the municipality is responsible for having it included or accepted in their sanitation master plans, and also having this monitored accordingly with the contract with the service providers. One interesting aspect as well is that the dislodging companies were only a part of this discussions and formulation of the solutions in the case of Santa Cruz. And they really state the importance of bringing this kind of factors in the discussions since the beginning. So it's really interesting to see this result. And finally, for the service configurations, there are several differences and similarities throughout the different stages. In terms of containment, all cases, they don't distribute on-site sanitation solutions, but they inspect and they advise for how to implement and operate such systems. In the case of Bolivia, they go also towards creating new standards and training construction professionals. Then when we're talking about collection and transportation, we had some cases that were towards scheduled dislodging, which was the case in Brazil and Costa Rica service model. In Bolivia, it was initially thought of having it just a call center to organize demand and supply for the services. This was not implemented so far. For the treatment, it's also all the cases considered a organic evolution towards the fecal sludge management, considering initially a co-treatment strategy with wastewater treatment, but also having clear perspectives for specific fecal sludge lines. It's the case in Brazil, for instance. They have already designed a dedicated fecal sludge treatment plant, which has not advanced yet, but they have this in their horizon. And finally, in terms of reuse, even though they have very different levels of development and implementation, they all are considering so far reuse for nurturing city open spaces and also for agriculture and forestry activities. So as a wrap up in terms of learnings, I think they all recognize the importance of having communication and engagement strategies for these initiatives to be effective. Something that I've discussed with Luis Francisco is the importance of having strategic measures for this regulation approval step. So this is, in all cases, it's something that is very time consuming, not necessarily a bottleneck, but it takes a lot of time and it's challenging to have this approval. And also when you have, when you depend on elected governments and politicians, you have to know how to deal with and avoid drawdowns and reworks if in case you're discussing with certain actors and then these actors are replaced by other people and you have to redo this work. And so know how to deal with this, it's a whole nother planet of discussion. This is really interesting to learn from these initiatives. So yeah, this is it for the content, and I think now we can open for the questions, or maybe if Vitor and Luis Francisco want to bring some other aspects. Yeah, this is it.
Thank you, Tomaz. Well, we have answered most of the questions, but we have left some questions that have directed to you and to Luis Francisco. So the first one is from Gabriela Garces, and maybe you can answer, or you made an answer yet, which is the state of the project in Santa Cruz, no? Does the implementation of the proposed solutions has already started? Is the question.
Yes, we're not completely updated on the last developments, but some of the actions, the supporting actions, non-structural, have been happening since the initiative. There were awareness campaigns and discussions, they already took place. But I'm not sure if the regulations or standards have been completed or actually been in full development stage. And when it comes to the structural solutions of treatment plants, from what I've learned, I don't know about the advancements. And as I mentioned, regarding the dislodging collection and transportation services, they've initially foreseen to implement a call center to organize demand and supply, but this has not been implemented. That the project consultant has updated us that this have not taken place.
Thank you, Tomaz. And another one for you, please. In some countries, France, Germany, Denmark, UK, the municipality can enforce household connection to the sewer once it is decided to have one, thus ensuring cost efficiency of operation and maintenance of the infrastructure. How is this regulated in the cities of these case studies?
Perfect. I will leave this also for Luis Francisco and Victor if they want to answer, but I know in the case of Brazil, this is a big point. If they're building a sewer network, they want everyone to connect to it, at least collect the tariff for it. And that's in our regulation here. If the sewer lines are present, that's the solution that you have to give. You need to connect to it. But yeah, I'm not sure if in Costa Rica this is different. Luis
Francisco, please.
Well, in Costa Rica, it is mandatory for every house owner to connect their wastewater to the sewer line if it is constructed in front of their property. So this ensures that at least if the government has the resources to build a project like this, everyone is going to be charged with a fee.
Thank you, Luis Francisco. There are two questions more for you. One is from Stefan Rutter. He says that, did I get you right? You expect to make a financial surplus from FSM helping you to expand the sewer network and the WW treatment plant? So do you expect to make a financial surplus for the expand of the sewer network?
Okay, I tried to explain this. The municipality has to provide all the services at the cost, which means we have no profit, okay? But the law only allows us to charge an extra 10%, which could be seen as a kind of profit that has to be used to develop new projects. So in this moment, we only have 15% of the population that has the regular sewer service provided. But next year, when we're gonna start to charge the 100% of the population with this new service, which means the 15% has all the sewers service, and the 85% with the collection or septic tanks cleaning service. With that, we have a bigger mass of users, and the tariff that we collect, the 10% of all that bigger mass of users is gonna be used for developing new projects of sewer service. So I think in the next 10 years, that is more or less the projection, we're gonna have, we expect to have 85% of the population provided with a sewer service, and only 15% of population will still use septic tank solutions. So we have to remember that some people still live in rural areas where it's not practical to build a sewer line, but most of the people is in urban areas. So that's our goal.
Thank you, Luis Fernando. And the last one, $4.5 per month. Does the tariff correspond to 10% of the drinking water bill monthly?
How can you repeat, please? I didn't get it.
If this $4.5 per month is the tariff correspond to the 10% of the drink water bill monthly?
No. We have a separate tariff. Water service has one tariff and is calculated based on the cost of the service plus 10% for developing the service. And the wastewater or the sanitation service, as we call it, we calculate all our costs and plus and 10% for developing the service. That's it. We don't have, we have separate tariff. The only way how water tariff and sanitation tariff are related is that the people who has sewer service, we calculate how much they have to pay monthly based on their water consumption. That's it. But they are different costs.
Okay, thank you. And one more for you. What type of organic waste is co-composted with dry fecal sludge? Is the composting plant in the, and if the composting plant is in the public sector?
Okay, in the composting area, we are using green waste coming from parks. So we have a park maintenance department. So they have a lot of trimmings, leaves, branches, all of them. So we chop those materials, we get them ready to mix them with the sludge. And after that, we made a very good quality compost. In the future, we're looking forward to a larger scale project where we can have a separation of the fraction of solid waste, the municipal solid waste, which is composed at least 50 to 60% of organic matter. So we look forward in the future to make this a recycling plant where we're gonna get a lot of organic waste. So we want to also use that material, but we think are gonna be different processes, probably production of biogas, and after that we dehydrate the digestate and make fertilizer and other material.
Okay, thank you, Luis Francisco. So that's it. So we're going to have now to the closer. First, thanks for your participation, and a special thanks to my team, Tomaz, Luis Francisco, and Victor Hugo, for the presentation and the exchange. And also to Alejandro, who is behind the screen. And with this, we have been able to share sustainable experiences in fecal sludge management in Latin America. We have seen that for efficient fecal sludge management, we still have challenges in terms of harmonized environmental policies, sharing services, standards, developing public management models in sanitation, clarifying regulation and rates in the service change, and developing capacities and knowledge of the different actors. But before closing, I would really like to reflect on environmental and human health. So let me share my screen. The evident changes in the climate system, global biodiversity, and geological process indicate that humans have radically altered the planet. But the ecological and water crisis is not the product of human action in a general way, but rather of colonization, capitalism, and the denial of the relationship between human beings and the animals and natural environment. What is the terra preta of the Amazon? More than 20,500 years ago, the indigenous settlements along the Amazon River with the production of food and substances practices deposit organic materials, cassava husk, cocoa, palm leaves, board, logs and sticks, animal manure, fish bones, and also human excrement on the ground. Over the years, these deposits show the impact of their transformation on the landscape, on the soil on which people walk. Dark and fertile soils called a terra preta do indio today are highly valued for the high concentration of organic matter, phosphorus, and other macro and micronutrients available to plants. The human population of the past altered soil in a way that increased the agricultural potential, and today terra preta is considered a model of sustainable agriculture. And the same happens in Japan and in China between the 6th and 7th centuries, where agricultural communities used human excreta as a fertilizers known as night soil. All this until the arrival of chemical fertilizers in the 20th century. Human beings are not necessarily a threat to the environment, and there are many models of environmental management that increase biodiversity and ecological diversity. This opened the door for the ways and relationship in which we feed the earth and it feeds us. This relationship was broken in the middle of the 19th century with the introduction of the toilet and the modern sewer systems. The great fault of this system is that the main problem of water pollution was never solved. With this sewer, we all defecate in clean water daily at no cost. But how much does it cost to recover clean water? And the other problem is that all that organic material is treated as a worthless waste. Decentralized technologies and the fecal sludge management take us on a path of recovery of the interaction between human beings and the earth. We must return to indigenous worldwide views that it teaches us that there is no natural world separated from the socio-cultural activities of human beings. Everything is integrated, our actions lead to consequences, even our visit to the bathroom. These ecological crises show us that our bodily substances are necessary elements of our socio-ecological system, and we can no longer hide our waste. Protecting water and recovering nutrients is everybody's job. Together, we can generate greater impact, but first, we must recognize our relationship in synergy with the planet. I invite those who are not yet members of Susana, register in susana.org, and follow Susana Latin American networks and Facebook and Twitter to create international interaction. If you are interested in having these FSM systematizations from Latin America, please visit the Susana library. You can download them. And one more, thank you for your participation in this webinar. And I will be looking forward to see you next year in the Susana meeting. So thank you very much. So thank you, Tomaz. Thank you, Francisco. Victor Hugo has to leave early, but thank you very much for all the presentation. I think we are on time.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you, Luis Francisco and Victor Hugo.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and hope to see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.